Today we're interviewing James Owen, who's the Executive Director with Renew Missouri. James, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you become interested in the environment and specifically about climate issues?
Yeah. Well, first of all, Bob, thanks for having me on here, and thanks for all that you do and all your group's doing in Kansas City. It's been a great opportunity to partner with you and your efforts. In regards to how I've gotten involved with this, it's always been something that's been of personal interest to me. I'm a lawyer by education and training. I practiced I did private practice for a number of years. I worked when I was in Springfield, Missouri. I worked on the City of Springfield Greene County Environmental Advisory Board. Worked for a number of other conservation boards and committees. Then when I moved to Jefferson City, when I moved to Columbia, I ended up getting a job being the state ratepayer advocate. I was public counsel for the state of Missouri, which allowed me to learn a lot about how utilities are run and operated, how we manage those resources. When I was fired by our former governor, Eric Greitens, I had an opportunity to come take over for Renew Missouri and take those experiences as in the regulatory world and doing policy work for public counsel and taking those same skills and applying them to what we're doing at Renew Missouri, because Renew Missouri intervenes with almost every electric rate case that the Public Service Commission has. The Public Service Commission regulates privately owned utilities like Evergy, like Ameren, Missouri, like Liberty Utilities. And so we get involved with those. And so what's been great about this is using that experience in the regulatory world as a lawyer and as a policy person with this passion I've had of being into conservation, being into environmental issues, which I always try to cite to being at a young age. I was born and raised on a dairy farm just outside of Springfield. Spent a lot of time outside. My parents were very ethical in how they treated their land, how they treated their animals, and so I think that's just a lesson that's stuck with me through this whole time.
That's great. Renew Missouri. So obviously you're working with utilities and such. What kind of work specifically does it do? Can you give us a little bit more of a description and how people might be able to get involved if that's appropriate?
Of course. Yeah, Renew Missouri is a 501c3. We're organized under the IRS code. We are based in Columbia. However, we have a full-time staff member and office in Kansas City. We have 2 full-time staff members in St. Louis. We are centrally located in the state because we're close to Jefferson City. Our main focus is, yes, we intervene in these cases, the Public Service Commission. We are constantly pushing utility companies to adopt more generation of renewable energy, constantly talking about ways to transmit renewable energy, how to get that to people's homes and businesses. We also spend a lot of time anymore, especially on the topic of energy efficiency. That's a law in Missouri right now that has become, a real model for the region and for the country as far as giving utilities a way to invest in energy efficiency, to produce less power, to get consumers to not use as much power. And I think that's really important, especially when we're talking about the fact that inherently producing energy at any kind is going to be time consuming, it's going to be expensive. So being able to reduce the amount that we're producing and using is important. So we do that work, but there's other utilities, municipal utilities like Independence, Columbia, Springfield. We try to work directly with the policymakers there, as well as city council members who oversee that, try to push them to, embrace clean energy, to embrace energy efficiency policies. And then we also work with member owners of rural electric cooperatives. We have 43 rural electric cooperatives throughout the state of Missouri that distribute power to hundreds of thousands of residents. Very spread out, very geographically sparse, but they make up a big part of the state. And so we try to work with those boards and those members to make sure they're being responsible in how they make power and how they consume it as well. To get involved with us, we have a website, renewmo.org. You can sign up for our listserv. We send out information, about once a week. We do a podcast every other week. We send that out, Renew Gurus. Go look for that on Apple or Spotify. But we also do our Renews email. We're on Twitter, RenewMo as our handle there. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. Try to be active on social media platforms. But obviously, depending on where you live, depending on what kind of utility serves you, that's going to depend on how you can help us and how we can help you.
That's great. I know you were at New Missouri. That was one of the original partners with the Climate Council. How's that collaboration gone for you?
I think, the biggest challenge for us in Kansas City is that, we're a group called Renew Missouri, but so much of what goes on in Kansas City is on the Kansas side. And, one of the things that we've always been striving for is to try to do work for the entire Kansas City metropolitan area. I mean, that's one of the reasons it's important for us to have a staff member there. And it has become increasingly important for us to work on both sides of the state line. I think things are going really well. We have pretty unique challenges in Kansas City right now. Evergy, I think, is probably going to be subject of an acquisition. So that's a challenge. City of Independence. A lot of your supporters know there's a lot of challenges in the management of that utility. That's an understatement. And so, when you've got those kind of things going on, also we have a new mayor. We work very closely with our partners in Kansas City to work with the mayor's office. I know that affordable housing, which is a big goal of his office, goes hand in hand with energy efficiency. And I think also trying to provide solar to low-income residents in Kansas City is really important. We just received an order from the Public Service Commission to require Evergy to provide low-income community solar pilots. So we're hoping to get that put into place soon. I think working with your group, working with other environmental groups based in Kansas City, working with housing groups, low-income advocacy organizations, those are all the people that we're trying to work with to make this work, because to me, the topic and the challenge of energy is to make sure it's working in accordance with all these other things that we're trying to do to make, not just Kansas City, but our whole state better. So that I think it's going really well, but we've got a lot of work to do.
So what's the future look like? Where do you go from here personally, and where's Renew Missouri heading?
Oh, me personally, I got to go back to raising money. So renewmo.com, renewmo.org, donate if you're so inclined. No, I mean, as far as like what I see the future as, I mean, I think that you're going to see I think you're going to start seeing more of a focus on electrification in the state. I think electrifying people's homes, EV charging networks. I mean, that's a big thing in Kansas City right now. It's a big thing with Ameren right now. Utility companies getting into the business of providing power for vehicles and then translating that to how we're running businesses and how you're running your home. I think electrification is going to be a big component of what we're dealing with. I think storage, battery storage, the more technology that we have going with that, the cheaper it's going to become, the more accessible it's going to be. And I think ultimately over time, and I think you can see this in the next 10 to 15 years, you're going to see a great decentralization of the grid. I think you're going to see more of a reliance on energy efficiency and financing from utility companies as opposed to just producing power. And I think that's ultimately going to give a lot more, independence to customers, more independence to businesses, more independence to residential customers, and how they make choices on where they get their power, how they get their power, how much power they're using. I think this is a really exciting time right now, and I think that energy policy can be used to really shape a more efficient, more effective, and a better economy for the future. I'm excited about that. As far as like what Renew Missouri does, I mean, like I said, I'd like to see us do more work in areas like the Kansas side of Kansas City. I would like to see us do more work in innovation, not just in where we get our power, but how it's delivered to you. Because I think when you talk about smart meters, you talk about how we're able to use technology to manage solar panels on your house. I think there's a real opportunity to, really kind of integrate all of that into your daily life. And I think everyone should really embrace that. I think it's really exciting.
That sounds very exciting. Well, thank you for speaking with us today. It's really been great talking to you.
Hey, Bob. Well, thanks for the invitation. We look forward to seeing you whenever we can in person.